Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the Select Board meeting, June 8th, 2026. This open meeting of the Town of Auburn Select Board is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, dial 1-872-240-3212 and use access code 166-009-269. Or the public can join via computer at meet.goto.com/Camp Gleason. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. Is anyone else recording tonight's meeting? Okay. So now, this is initially a joint meeting with the Economic Development Committee.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Economic Development Committee to order. Thank you all for being here. We will proceed with the items listed on tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you're able to stand, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so tonight we are having a joint meeting with the Economic Development Committee, and we're going to hear from the Urban Land Institute, ULI, TAP workshop in their presentation. So I will turn it over to Paul Delaquila.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to the board for hosting this tonight, and thanks to the EDC for joining us as well. I think this is going to be a very interesting and informative night. Just to recap for the folks who are here and the folks who will be listening to this online or on the web after, starting in December, we had put forth an application to the Urban Land Institute with the sponsorship and guidance of Mass Development to apply for this ULI TAP program, Technical Assistance Program. And we initially identified a large corridor town. We ended up refining that, and we ended up focusing on the Drury Square, Route 12, Auburn Mall area. As these groups are all aware, there's been a lot of work done in recent years in Drury Square from the zoning and regulatory side. We've done streetscaping, we have the new park, we have a number of different elements in the area that are really helping to move us forward. That said, what are our opportunities? What are our next steps? And so this technical assistance panel program was an opportunity to begin to explore those. And so several of the things we identified in our application that we wanted assistance with. We wanted to look at market issues. What could we do to position, and again, I'm speaking collectively here, the mall, Drury Square, Route 12. What can we do to market this area? What can we do to attract the type of businesses we want to see? What can we do from a planning and design standpoint? We've done some good things from a zoning standpoint, perhaps, but what can we do to integrate those things, to make the mall speak to what's happening on Route 12 and what's happening in Drury Square? And last but not least, how to make that all happen. So that means financing, funding, incentives, feasibility, things to take ideas on paper and translate them into bricks and mortar, literally, figuratively, things on the ground. And so that was sort of the purpose, the goal, the broad scope of our application. So just to fill you in early this morning, and I'll let the ULI team speak to everything, but we had an initial consultation this morning. Town staff took the consultant team on a tour of the area we're talking about, and then they met with a variety of stakeholders, including some of the folks in this room, through the course of the morning. And this team was working very diligently this afternoon to put together this presentation. I haven't had a chance to see it yet either, so this is going to be exciting for all of us. So I think with that, in the interest of time and getting into the meat of the presentation, I'm going to introduce Michelle Landers, who is the Executive Director of the Urban Land Institute Boston, New England, and she'll introduce the team and a bit more about the scope of this presentation.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, as Paul mentioned, my name is Michelle Landers. I'm the Executive Director of ULI Boston. We are the District Council of the Urban Land Institute, covering all of New England except Fairfield County. We have about 1,250 members, and our members are professionals all across the land use and commercial real estate industry. So globally, we have about 50,000 members. We have members in all countries, all continents, and our mission is to provide transformative development in the built environment. Technical assistance panels are a core product of ULI. We have a national version called Advisory Services Panels, where professionals spend 5 days working through a contentious or challenging real estate or land use issue in a community. Locally, these TAPs are generally 1 to 2 days. We've been here for 1 day with some prior briefing. All the panelists that you'll hear from today, or you'll see on the screen, have donated their time. So while there is a fee through Mass Development to ULI to cover overhead and support our program, everyone here has donated their time and are conflict-free. So they're really giving you the best advice that they can. We did a recent impact analysis on our TAPs, and about 82% said that their approach to municipal planning and development strategies was affected by the TAP, and at least 62% said one key developable asset from the TAP report had been redeveloped consistent with the recommendations. So this report that this presentation that you'll see tonight will be available to you starting tomorrow morning. And then in about 10 to 12 weeks, you'll have a full written report. We have a professional writer with us today that will flesh out some of the recommendations, give you a little bit more background on everything that we mentioned. As was mentioned, Mass Development is a sponsor of ULI Boston's TAP program. And I'm going to introduce the panel before I hand it over. So our panel was chaired by Richard Lampman, Dick Lampman, and Michael Wang. And then our panelists included Barry Abramson, Rob Anderson, Dick Galehouse, Ed Hamanzului, Ravi Parmar, myself, and Alejandro Lopez were here as staff and also contributed to some of the findings. And then our TAP report writer is Mike Hoban. So I'm going to hand it over to Dick, who will talk about the process and go through what we saw and what we heard, and then we'll get into our recommendations.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening. Thank you all for coming. It's been an interesting day for us. I think we're all from the greater Eastern Mass area, but not everybody's had a chance to see some of the things that you have in Auburn. So it was quite interesting for us. So before we get into the recommendations, I thought I'd just briefly take you through the process. And as Paul mentioned, we've been briefed. We have a lot of information that's been provided to us from the various town agencies, which kind of gives us an opportunity to delve deeper into some of the technical issues. So this morning, we arrived, had a brief briefing from Paul and some of the town staff, followed by a site visit where we kind of caravanned around the Drury Square, the mall area, and got a first-hand look at the area, some of the issues. And then that was followed by a couple of hours of stakeholder interviews. We interviewed some people from the town. They told us what their thoughts were, what they were looking for, what they thought the town was looking for. So that informed our deliberations. And then that was followed by this afternoon what we call a charrette, where we all sat down and talked about what we heard, analyzed everything that we saw, and began to see if we could formulate some recommendations for you. So the panel's assignment was to focus on these three issues, the first of which are market issues. what were the best and highest uses of the vacant areas of the Auburn Mall site, and also any redevelopment opportunities that we could see in the general Drury Square area. Also planning and design. That involved what infrastructure improvements and investments might be helpful in creating an environment for further development, and integrate some of the commercial and municipal spaces at the pedestrian level, and recommend any adjustments to your zoning and other regulations that we felt would be helpful in facilitating that. And then finally, what are the feasibility and financing issues? So as you go to implementation, everything costs money. What's available to help you start to implement some of the things that you want to do, as well as some of the things that we might recommend. So we start off with our tour, and basically we had, I think it was 5 stops around the area, which was very interesting. We got the history, the background, some of the recent happenings in the various areas, primarily around Drury Square and the rest of the study area. So that was actually quite interesting to see all the things that are currently there. And you do have kind of a richness of a lot of things, but obviously there are other things that you could add to this. So this was very helpful to us. And then the tour basically ended up at the Auburn Mall site, which interestingly was a little more vibrant and active than a lot of the malls. You know, you hear a lot about malls are dead, and we didn't find that that was the case. It has transitioned from what it was originally, but it's still viable, and the Simon Group seems to be happy with the product. And hopefully this can be improved. And so this is the final stop. And this, for us, in addition to the mall site, the real key area was Drury Square, and particularly the area around Auburn Pond, which is a fascinating area. And it seems to be kind of an area that hasn't reached its full potential yet, and could be a catalyst for some of the things that you would like. Some of the things we heard when we talked to people this morning was obviously the desire for walkability in this particular area, desire for more locally owned restaurants and cafes. I know you've got some of the chain restaurants represented here, but I think it's a nice environment. You know, if locally owned establishments could be facilitated. Desire to activate the Goddard Park, and I know you're working on that, and that's certainly an interesting thing that a lot of people, I think, locally are probably aware of, but outside of the area, probably not the history of that particular area. Obviously, the lack of nightlife, since Auburn is a town, not really a city like your neighbor Worcester, but it would be nice to have some places to go in the evenings, and things to do. The town, we understand, is growing, and maybe there have been some ups and downs in the school enrollment, which is, I think everybody's experiencing that, but it's not a serious drop-off. People, I think we heard this from a number of people, that the higher density housing, multi-unit housing, you have a lot of very nice single-family neighborhoods in the town, and not all of them really lend themselves to multi-story apartment buildings in a primarily single-family home environment. So that would be something hopefully that can be avoided in as many cases as possible. Wayfinding and signage, particularly in the Drury Square area, I think it's if you're not intimately familiar with it, it's a little difficult to find your way around there, so that would be a good addition. There were, I guess everybody has a different perception of the Auburn Mall. I'm sure some people think it should go away. Other people think it's fine. There are obviously potential there to do other things. And I think part of the transition of the malls, and this has occurred in other areas around Boston, they have been transformed from what they originally were. And I think that potential exists for the Auburn Mall. And then there are certain aspects of Drury Square that are really quite nice. You know, it isn't as probably cohesive and as accessible, especially with the roadways bisecting it in two directions, but it's a nice area and has a lot of potential. So some of the opportunities and challenges, we kind of summarized the assets. The town is very green. You know, we use the word bucolic. You just have a nice green town. The public uses to create a town center, some of them are in place. The high school, the library, Goddard Park, the pond. The highway access, of course, is huge here because you've got two main roadways going right through and easy to get on and off and get to other places. The history of the Goddard rocket launch and what could be done with that. Most of the people we talked to expressed a desire for a greater sense of community, and that really means having places to convene, you know, outside of their workplace, the schools, that type of thing, and so that would bring the community together. Make it more of a retail destination, because there is potential to bring retail, restaurants, retail shops into the town that are currently here. The mall is still functioning. I think it's more than functioning. It's a large taxpayer, obviously, and so I think what you want to do is capitalize on what you have. There's areas there that could be taken advantage of. There also are seemingly a lot of people that come to Auburn to work during the day but don't necessarily live here, whether that's by choice or because they can't find suitable places to live. So that's certainly an issue. And I think another asset you have is that students, we were told, that live less than a mile and a half from the schools walk to school, which isn't the case in a lot of communities. And I think it really lends itself to, they'd like other places to walk to, I guess. The challenges are probably familiar. There isn't really a town center here in the sense that a lot of other New England towns have a center. And that was one of the things that we really focused on. The area, particularly around Drury Square, is very auto-centric, a lot of roads, a lot of traffic, not particularly pedestrian-friendly right now, so there are obviously improvements to be made there. We found that the current fire station obstructs a great view of the pond, which as we drove around the pond, it isn't actually visible from a lot of areas there, so people could drive by there and not even know it was there. So that's certainly a challenge. There are multiple property owners, particularly around the Drury Square area, a lot of little parcels, which makes it challenging to assemble larger parcels if you wanted to do something different. We decided that the library is the only third space in town, an area where people could meet outside of work, outside of school, you know, just as a place to go. And so other places to do that are needed. There are plenty of single-family homes here. Not as many if you don't want to live in a single-family home. Not as many apartments, condos, those type of options. And I think that there is a demand for those type of things. And so we need to find a place to do them. And the current economic situation makes any kind of new development challenging. So that's true not only in Auburn, but it's nationwide. So I will now turn it over to Michael Wang, who's going to get into the recommendations. And again, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Michael Wang, one of the co-chairs along with Dick, and I'm an architect and a planner. And I get to do the fun stuff, I guess, at least from my perspective. But It was interesting trying to put together the recommendations. We tried to break them down based on the 3 questions that were established. But what you will soon see here is in this first category of highest and best uses, these are really more observations, and most of the recommendations really fall into the second category, which is about infrastructure improvement, but these are all sort of tied together, and just the phraseology looks more like observations. But the key word on that first bullet point, that there are not many suitable parcels available for larger ground-up development, is available. Dick has already commented on the opportunities potentially around the mall. Both, we know there's a potential pad site being developed on the Reliance side, and obviously the Sears parcel and Sears Auto is a very generously sized parcel, one of the few that has the opportunity, I think, for large-scale mixed-use development without having to consolidate the many parcels that you would find, for example, in the Drury Square area. And so that ownership piece, I guess, when it comes to thinking about Drury Square and how you might get some more mixed-use, larger-scale mixed-use development there, that is going to be, we're going to be recommending working on your zoning to help incentivize consolidation of parcels, and as you'll see, infrastructure improvements related to largely the area in the center of Auburn, where the pond and the park are. Let me carry on here. So this second piece here, I'm going to talk to this. I'm going to show you some fun images, and then I'm going to pass it off to Rob and Alejandro from Mass Development to talk about some of the financing pieces. So as far as infrastructure improvements, the panel really very quickly sort of locked in on the idea that this idea of placemaking and as being very important. And where does that happen? Does that happen at the far end of the mall? Does it happen somewhere in the Drury Square area? And how do you realize that? And so you have this beautiful amenity of the pond, although, as Dave mentioned, it's not hugely visible at this particular time. And you have the Goddard Park, which has been renovated recently. And so we started by thinking about if you really created a focal point there, an amenity, and put some public investment into really cleaning up and adding amenities to that area, that could be an incentive for the surrounding parcels. It could really be something that would draw investment into the surrounding parcels. So some of the ideas that you'll see include walking paths, a boardwalk around the pond, adding some public amenities such as a cafe or patio maybe associated with the library or separately, or on the fire station site. Something that might engage the park, and the pond can sit out on a terrace, and that it would be kind of another one of those third spaces that people could enjoy. And of course, in that environment, there's opportunities for a farmer's market and community garden and things like that, which we heard people talk about. And we obviously heard very clearly what's going on with the fire station and the new fire station that's being built. The panel, and this is the panel is thinking that it would be terrific if somewhere down the road that fire station that is currently there could be relocated. We understand the sensitivity of how important that location is in terms of accessibility to the highways and the surrounding neighborhoods. But it doesn't necessarily mean it has to necessarily be there, because we feel very strongly that whatever can be done to make that triangle area really purely a public focus amenity would really greatly enhance opportunities in the surrounding areas. So in addition to that, the second bullet point, and then I'll move on to photographs. We were thinking about the roadway networks, Route 12 and Auburn Street, and how additional study on, I know you guys have done work on your sidewalks, and we've seen the lighting and other things that you've done. There's some things that could really be done to enhance connectivity. You have these beautiful system of brooks, which you can't see now. They're sort of buried in overgrown landscape. And I think moving sidewalks inboard in some cases, like along the mall edge there on the side away from the road would not only increase safety, but you could make essentially a series of greenways that could connect to the central pond area. And then with these public investment opportunities, but also some attention to the zoning that is focused on facilitating as-of-right development. I think that's critical, and understanding what type of scale of development is appropriate in certain locations. I know the Drury Square district has a 35-foot height limit, whereas your local business now allows up to 80. But I mean, if you're wanting to do some mixed-use development in the Drury Square area, 35 feet isn't necessarily enough, to make things pencil out and all that. So I think there's some opportunities there to rethink some of the criteria and incentives, whether that's density bonuses or height bonuses or things like that. And you have to decide what level of height and stuff and volume mass you're comfortable with. But I think there's some opportunities for tweaking there that could really, particularly the buy right piece, incentivize, attract the private sector. So let me just share a few photographs here, and then I'll turn it over to our mass development friends. So this is the outline of the area that we considered today, and you can see stretching down past the mall and encompassing the high school site and the parcels to the north and east of Auburn Street. And we used this graphic, the GIS graphic here, to really focus in on the intersection of all the streets, and try to imagine the opportunities here. So this shows you the idea of, again, focusing on the pond and park area, and how all of these connectivity and pieces, I mean, all the idea of creating greenways and further enhanced sidewalks leading you to this amenity in the center of town, really we think could be the key. And here's an idea about, we started to think about the quality of the space, and if you imagine for a moment that the fire station actually isn't there, but that the library is there in some capacity, and maybe it has some kind of outdoor amenities associated with it, and you have the new bridge and certain things like that. But if you enhance that by engaging, perhaps building a boardwalk, putting in some additional footbridges, we feel like the parking lot on the corner by the library is pretty unfortunate in terms of the first thing you see when you come off 290 there. And so providing some kind of buffering there would be a great starting point. But you can see in this image how having amenities like with an outdoor terrace, like a cafe like you find in Post Office Square or in other parks in New York, these components could really make for an active and usable focal point for the town. So I think that's a pretty compelling idea, although obviously the fire station is a component of that. And so then to grow on that, I just have a couple more images here. We did do a couple of feasibility studies thinking about the scale of development, mixed-use development that you might imagine. I don't know if you remember the study that was done by Harriman back in 2017. This is similar qualities to that. This is the parcel on the northeast side of Auburn Street across from the fire station, and we're showing kind of a mixed-use building there marking the corner. And I think in general we felt that if buildings could get to the street, and I know the Drury Square bylaw allows for 0 to 10-foot front setback, I think that really helps define and activate pedestrian environments. So anything you can do to get buildings to the street edge and activate the sidewalks and putting the parking in the rear, I think is a helpful move. So this is an example of a couple of types of buildings that might be there, it's either a townhouse or with retail below, or a three-story mixed-use building could work. I think it'd be the appropriate scale in this location. And again, you can see even with 3-4 stories, you're getting densities closer to 20 dwelling units per acre, which is probably right in that location. So don't want to leave the mall out of the equation here. So we have some images of sort of thinking about, as you know, a number of the Sears stores have been repositioned around Massachusetts. Here's some images from the Burlington Mall. And so there's a number of different approaches to that, and obviously this it has to do with the approach that the mall is interested in taking. But the Burlington approach is essentially working with the existing box and turning the storefronts outward and creating some green space around it. But it is utilizing the old anchor footprint and subdividing it into smaller leases, but engaging with some usable exterior space. This is a different approach. This is in Smith Haven, which is down on Long Island. It's also a repositioning of an old anchor, and you can see the footprint of it there, into basically an open lifestyle center with smaller leases and like a courtyard feel to it. And you can still sort of have the essence of there's a connectivity into the mall gallery. So, and I know you've got a lot of activity happening in the mall today, so that would, I think, enhance that connection would be good. But so this is a different approach. Instead of turning things outward, you're creating an outdoor world within sort of the footprint of the mall, of the anchor built footprint. And then lastly, if you are familiar with Market Street in Linfield, I think one thing that a lot of these mall repositioning efforts are looking to do is integrate usable public open space, and that has the flexibility to, house or carry on events, but also just creates a gathering place. And so I've got a quick study that I did of imagining the Sears block not being there, and that you had sort of a open retail lifestyle center growing off of the end of the mall there. The green represents a new centralized usable open space, and then you have this interesting edge where you can see the brook is going along Southbridge Street there, and you can imagine, I don't know if any of you are familiar with The Street, which is a new project in Chestnut Hill that was built. It's along Route 9, which is sort of similar in many respects in terms of scale, but it creates an internal street that's parallel with the main drag, and it allows people to pull off and to engage the storefronts, and so you have sort of an internalized world here that's outdoors and enjoyable, but also you have the edge that's facing and activating the streetscape and the pedestrian environment along the stream. The blue is a potential of integrating some mixed use. Vertically integrated mixed use might be a little challenging in this environment, but certainly getting into some multifamily as you move further down towards the Mass Pike is a possibility. But anyway, that's just an idea about one type of approach that begins to have a nice presence on the street, but also creates an internalized world that works to complement and hopefully enhance the mall itself. I'm going to stop there and pass it off to Rob.
Good evening, Rob Anderson and Alejandro Lopez from Mass Development. Because we work for a finance agency, we're a little bit less creative. We've chosen not to spend the municipality's money right off the bat, but wanted to offer at least a couple of ideas of ways in which the town can approach financing these things, putting itself in the best position to succeed. So again, part of it is marketing. We have heard from people that incentives could potentially be on the table. identifying what those things that you want to see developed and incentivizing them and being very clear with that. If you want a restaurant on a 1-acre site right beside the mall, think about structuring that and having that part of your marketing. One of the things is the activation of that particular pond. There is the Community Preservation Act. I'm not sure if Auburn has adopted it. Worcester just did. Again, it's one of those things where it could be a consideration if that is the way of the board. Again, we're also aware that the municipality has a meals and lodging tax. The select board could set a policy to devote some of those funds to this area if it is a priority for the municipality. Again, we all know that the money from those particular local option taxes go to the general fund, but you could set a policy that this is a priority and we want to see it developed. We want to see a town center area. And again, one of the things we've spoken with Paul in the past, I'm not telling him anything he doesn't know, is exploring the opportunity to become a PACE community. PACE is Property Assessed Clean Energy. It encourages property owners to make clean energy investments in their properties. It's non-traditional financing, so it could be beneficial should there be new construction or redevelopment of certain areas. So those are some on the kind of debt side.
Sure, thanks. And on the grant side, I've listed a couple of a few of mass development grants offered through the One Stop for Growth portal. So the idea behind each of these grant programs is to help unstick a properties or parcels, but also to kind of address and create connections, collaborate, and have conversations, excuse me, with developers or nonprofit developers through the site readiness program. This is a relatively unique tool through mass development. It's a grant offered to municipalities, nonprofit developers to help with acquisition, demo, really the site preparation pieces of a parcel or property, right? It's unique in that aspect, wherein it provides the municipality an opportunity, if engaging with a nonprofit developer, to collaborate and work together towards unsticking said property or project. Through the Underutilized Properties Program, it's eligible for private developers, excuse me, for private developers, and these private developers, again, provide an opportunity for you all to engage, have conversations, and create, oh, thank gosh, thank you. Thank you so much. And provides an opportunity, wow, so much better, provides an opportunity to create housing stock, retail stock in existing buildings that are underutilized. And an example being, if there is a building on Auburn or on Southbridge Street, right, where the first floor is active, but the second floor may be utilized for small housing units or for other retail space, underutilized properties can be used in that method to help unstick it. And through the Real Estate Services Technical Assistance Program, it's a means to help position the municipality to create tools to study districts in a grander scale. An example being perhaps a second phase to this planning project, right? Can we expand the boundaries and make them a little bit fuzzier, right? Are there other properties, parcels, or projects that could be beneficial to look at, whether it be at a market analysis or at a repositioning of said property. And then ultimately too, you wanted to highlight the Mass Downtown Initiative as a grant program to pursue to help implement and install wayfinding signage, and thinking about how this signage is being interpreted from both the visitor and from the resident perspective. And we'll move on to Q&A.
All right, thank you very much. Members, any questions? I'll start with the select board.
Yep. So I know you guys mentioned some of the incentives out there and available. What role would our tax policy play in development? And we have a split tax rate currently. Is that a good opportunity, or is that a challenge? Does it not drive any conversations?
So as someone who's done some municipal economic development in the past, the conversations that you're not having are they're worthless. If you at least say that you are coming to the table, whether or not you have a split tax rate or a single tax rate, with developers, with people who are looking to make that investment, it's the number one thing. So I would say that your tax policy does not affect the conversations as long as you're willing to at least have that conversation. I do know that if you're looking to redevelop the mall and they are looking to market a particular 1 acre parcel at their corner right there near Drury Square, you actually want to be able to say, yes, that is a consideration for us, and then let them bring the potential leads to you. So your tax situation should not cause a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, just sticking with taxes for a second. Besides the split rate tax and possibly moving to a single tax rate, when you talk about incentives, you're talking about TIFs and diffs. Can you just touch on what those are and whether those would be beneficial in having those conversations?
Sure. So DIF, so it's district increment urban financing. It's essentially determining if there's a district that you project growth to occur in and capturing that new growth as part of a DIF fund to address or support economic development projects. That's very much just scratching the surface of what it is and what it and how it may address certain projects. But to give you an example of how that's done, through Real Estate Services Technical Assistance, we can support initiatives to determine the feasibility of a proposed district where a municipality anticipates new development to occur, and what that increase in tax revenue may look like based compared against the assessed value of the given year that we're conducting the study in. And this
property tax revenue
new growth, in this new growth, or these types of projects that can be supported, can vary anything from infrastructure, from sidewalk improvements to wayfinding, to even the, I believe, the management or the operational costs associated with managing a different fund. That's very much a scratching the surface, but there's plenty of resources available on the Mass Development website. I'm happy to forward to the committee.
And because Massachusetts loves confusing people, tax increment financing is there's a baseline for a property. It can either be an existing facility or a site that has no development. It has an assessed value. As a result of the investment, the value of the property is assessed at a higher level. That difference between what it was and what it is, a municipality can offer property tax abatement of between 5 and 100% for a length of time between 5 and 20 years. You can choose to, at the local level, do anything negotiated with the end user to help defray some of those costs. Sometimes it helps get people through the door. Oftentimes, it's that means to start a conversation. I think one of the things, and I will reiterate it until probably the day I die, is that streamlined permitting and the fact that you have a very business-friendly community that's willing to bring everyone to the table. Police, fire, planning, Paul, everyone coming to the table is almost as valuable as incentives. So because Auburn is a very pro-business community, I think that stands very well for the attraction of the businesses that you want.
Anyone from there? Questions?
I did not have any questions. Did anyone members have any questions?
I think I'm good for now. It's a lot of information to absorb, so all in one day.
I guess my one question was just around, so the walkability, I liked how you sort of framed that, but then in terms of...
Make sure you speak into it.
Oh, am I not close enough?
Thank you.
Okay. I'll put my mouth right to it. Was just around, we do have bus routes that come through town, and I think making parking, but I was just curious if that will be a piece of the final report, is like any additional advisement on sort of traffic routing, because like you said, it's a busy area. It's a main highway basically, and so I was just curious if that'll be a piece of the final report, like speaking to ideas for rerouting traffic or slowing traffic even more than we already have by narrowing the roadway there.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this, but I think what we're recommending is having a traffic study that would really look at, like, ideas about maybe road diet or additional crossings, and as, you know, if you do end up getting more of a centralized amenity in the park and the pond, just making sure that all those connections to the various blocks are very accessible, because that's what's really going to drive you know, that's going to be an amenity or incentive for development of those parcels. But that doesn't.
No, that answers the question, yeah,
you know,
that makes sense,
We
yeah.
often enhance
Yeah.
our findings in the report. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I guess to that end, in terms of the report as well, just curious, in terms of like the objective baselines of criteria that need to be evaluated as you look at these suggestions, you know, ideas are great. Everybody loves pretty pictures and fancy things. But as you look at it, and it's a multi-year, multi-decade strategy, what type of recommendations, or will there be recommendations to the boards in terms of, you know, how potentially to prioritize the decision-making of where that attention should go first?
We talked a lot about this. Hi, I'm Barry Abramson. So within the study area, we really saw the park and the pond as kind of the initial core strategy for you. A lot of the other things are, other areas will depend on private parties acting, and some of that may be challenging. But what you can do in that park is really create sort of the beating heart of your community that really doesn't appear to be there right now in a way that we can see. And so focusing on creating a great park there and a pond that's activated, using the library, hopefully which you can improve to somehow communicate better with the pond, expanding the area of the park, a green space, by ultimately relocating that fire facility, if that's possible. Not essential, but it would make it better. Really can create something for you with a walk around, with boardwalk or a path, where people can stroll around that pond, maybe have a small pavilion with coffee or food that people can gather at with outdoor seating. We feel that that can really, even if you did nothing else, that could create something that provides, reinforces the identity, provides a common meeting area for people, and then potentially has the spillover effect of ultimately leading private property owners to up their game in terms of the development that they see as potentially viable there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I just want to make one note because I'm familiar with it, but I think that within our general state, the fact that you use Post Office Square as an example, if anybody has not been into the park outside of 10 Post Office Square, it's exactly what would suit us well, because from greater Boston, you've got this enormous city with highways and everything, and when you step out of 10 Post Office Square and you go across the street, you go into a square area that is completely covered by trees. And once you've stepped in there, there's a lot of grass and walkway for parks. Tons of people go in there to eat lunch. There are a couple of cafes, but the reason why it's so important is because when you step into that environment, you completely forget that you're even working in Boston. Just if anybody's not ever been to there, I just think that was a perfect example.
I'd like to add one thing, being that we're using Boston examples. One thing that Post Office Square, as great as it is, doesn't have water, doesn't have a pond.
Right.
It has a fountain, but doesn't have a pond. Something that we found interesting was that if you look at the area of the park and include the fire station area, according to your tax records, that's about 11 acres. The public garden in Boston is about twice that size. It's 24 acres. But the pond in the public garden is only about 4 acres. And your pond appears to be about 5 or 6 acres. So really, you have something that if you can capture all of that green space, gives you an amenity that is something that, as somebody who lives in the greater Boston area, that's a destination that I would go to, and I think people here would go to. And you just need to make the most of it, activate it, make it walkable all the way around, make it visible from the peripheries, and you're really going to have something great here that you can build off of.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, just to point out on the final report, I just want to mention that when there were some discussions going up about our new firehouse being built, one of the pluses that they got in that building study was that they didn't need a second floor right now, but what they did was they prepared for the future, and they're building and constructing that firehouse so that if growth or change, and there will be in the next 15 to 30 years comes about, they're making that so that it can be changed. I would hope that your plan might give us a view of what could possibly change in 15 or 20 years, and so that we don't lose sight of that, and that we can benefit from all of the work we're going to do to get there. And it's not for naught.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I know you guys briefly mentioned marketing, but as this plan develops, what do we need to do to make sure it gets moving, right? Like, how can we ignite that or get people to the table for those conversations rather than just say, oh, they're private property owners and they...
I love that question. Mass Development is a statewide quasi-public economic development organization. I know Paul. I think he owes me a beer. If he doesn't, he will soon. But that intersection with state economic development people, like myself, like Alejandro, like the state's Office of Business Development, as you start coming up with that story to market this area and Auburn as a whole, making sure that those conversations keep up. Because if you are telling the story but looking inward and only telling it amongst your residents, you're not doing enough. So making sure that those relationships with the state economic development team is vital. So again, Paul knows how to get in touch with me. He just gave me his cell phone. I'm going to text him all the time. But that's the thing. It's making sure that people understand that perhaps the perception of Auburn and those things that you're looking to change and invest and get the new stuff for the future is very important. So that's one of the suggestions I would make as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Are you all set, Steve?
Yes, for now. Things come in. I don't control it.
So going back to what the report may not include, you identified one of our biggest problems is that there's a lot of small parcels that are privately owned. Will your report include examples or strategies that other communities have implemented successfully to get those private parcels bundled together into a more developmental parcel that could then be advertised and marketed to a developer?
No.
I can give you a response to that may not be the most encouraging, quite frankly. With very active municipal engagement, you can be the impresario that tries to orchestrate pulling together all these parcels. But I've got to say, looking, let's say, at that area of Drury Square where you have, 10 or 12 parcels, each in active use, and you have a big parking area in between, but that parking is needed. It's frankly going to be very difficult. Often you see developers playing that role, but they will play that role where there is a real market incentive to do so, and where the economics of development are such that the value of the land for new development significantly exceeds the value of the properties in their current use. We're not so sure that's the case in that location currently, but what we are suggesting is that if you really improve the heck out of that central area of the pond, you at least enhance the opportunity that those economics will shift over time. So we don't have a magic bullet for you there. Sorry on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, maybe you can explain
Just from a zoning perspective, I mean,
Yeah.
you can, incentivize parcel consolidation by setting minimum thresholds for parcel sizes in order to have the right to do certain types of development. And you can, actually build into that density bonuses and additional height and, open space. There are other things that you can get in return as well, such as more usable open space or more affordability or those things. But it's a trade-off, but that word has to get out, and that, through parcel consolidation, it does open up more development opportunities.
Thank you. Any other questions, Steve?
No, thank you.
You all set? You all set? Thank you. All set, okay. Does anyone from the public wish to, oh, yes. Just make sure you speak to the mic, please. Thank you.
My name is Ed Hamzandu. I'm with the ULI TAP. I was itching to tell you this. I believe one immediate action that the city can take without spending a dime to catalyze this action, because it's going to take decades to rebuild the whole thing. But one action you can take that doesn't cost you a dime is following up with the marketing. Is city wants a restaurant, a cafe. Also, Simon's own and operated marketing for a cafe. It is a little bit unorthodox from a city to approach the owner, property owner, but I believe that conversation can go a long way. Tell them, hey guys, we are behind you. We help you with the permitting, utility, all of that doesn't cost you anything. They can use that in the marketing package. So guys, come over, can get you permitted, start right off the bat, very fast. And that piece is going to catalyze the whole thing. And after that, piece like this, you just can't do that immediately.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the public wish to make a comment? Just make sure you come to the mic, identify yourself.
Alan Rafferty. I have several questions. And the shorter the answers, the better, I think, for everybody tonight. But my first question is this. Drury Square was recently renovated. Am I understanding that tonight is your opinion that that square is not pedestrian friendly? Is that what's stated?
Not good, no.
Look, I'll answer that.
Yeah, just come to.
You can have all the great streetscape in the world.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
But
Just
if
make
you
sure you
don't
speak.
have- If you don't have the building frontages and uses and a continuous flow along that streetscape, then people are less prone to walk. It's as simple as that. And to the extent that new development ultimately can be promoted that will create a activated contiguous street front, that's great. But it's going to be a challenge, given that all these private parcels are already developed.
So can I just,
Yeah, Martin.
I just want to quickly sort of jump on that. I think the difference is that, is it pedestrian accessible now? Yes. Is it pedestrian friendly where it's going to draw people to go there to actively use it? Probably not. I think that's the difference.
And one more, just
Yeah.
one more quick comment. If you look at the extents of the map of the Drury Square district, and you look at what parcels are in there, the high school takes up an enormous piece of that, and the Goddard Park Library site takes up another enormous piece of that. So there actually is not a ton of parcels that are in that district, first off. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. You go ahead.
And I heard several times mentioned tonight that the fire station that's in Drury Square is a non-starter. It seems like you're really heavily recommending that it not be a fire station anymore. Is that correct? Does that ruin the overall plan if that remains a fire station?
Look, we want that park to be as great as it can be. Go ahead and work on the park with the fire station in place and make it as good as you can. But if ultimately you can get to a point where you can relocate that, all the better, because you could significantly enhance the green space and expose that green space and pond to people passing by. So is it essential? No. Would it be a lot better? Yes. And is it practical? That's a question for you folks to figure out.
And one more, dovetailing on that, if you think about the location of the tennis courts, for example, that is on a prime corner at the major intersection where you would hope to have something that is sort of a visible, walkable, mixed-use opportunity there. And I know those are probably fairly recent, but that's another, maybe not the ideal thing in that location, potentially.
Yeah, my third and I'll make it my final question is, it seemed to be suggested tonight that the semi-dual tax rate that we have in town, they're pretty close, business versus residents. I think the gentleman from the financial side of this presentation said that the tax rate doesn't have to be made a single tax rate, that apparently it's just fine the way it is. Would that be a good assumption?
No. Taxes can always be better. I suppose that is the short answer. I think that the fact that it's so close is not really an issue. I think comparing yourself to other communities in the area, Auburn is doing very well. I think sometimes communities have the debate about single versus split tax rate. It's kind of like the favorite pizza place that you're going to. Some people prefer local, some people like Domino's. I think one of the key things is that when you're talking with the businesses, taxes are not going to be the top choice. It's what's the market say, how can we get through the streamlined permitting as quickly as possible, and how soon, once you pick up the phone, is the town going to answer. And I think those things far exceed a split tax rate or single tax rate. So I think taxes can always be better, is the short answer.
Thank you very much. So I think we're all set. Everyone's asked their questions. So I want to thank the group for coming out and spending the day here in Auburn. I hope you found it satisfactory. Hope you had a good lunch here. And we look forward to reading that report. Okay? Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
it's time for, I think, our joint meeting to adjourn.
Yes, if there's no further business, this meeting, Economic Development Committee is adjourned at 7:03. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to have a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
7:03.
by state law. This did not happen while these folks were being recorded. Finally, I had posted a link of the unedited version, because it was replaced with an edited version, cutting out the recording that took place early on the ACT YouTube website, so that people could see what I saw. It was deleted. It was taken down. In that kind of a situation is a possible freedom of speech violation that has taken place, because there's no reason to delete anything that anyone posts on a public board. So all I can say is some interesting things took place. I learned a lot of things, and further legal action will be coming. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Continuing with our agenda, we're looking at presentations and public hearings. We have a public hearing and a probable board vote on a common victualler license application for The Walk 360, located at 385 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. Do I hear a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, do we have anyone here to talk about The Walk? Is there someone online to talk about it? Or participating remotely? No? All right, so we have the information in our packet. Does anyone have any questions?
Can I just confirm through the town manager that the DCG has reviewed this and everything meets their satisfaction?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay. All right, does anyone from the board have any other questions? Or does anyone from the public have any questions about this? All right, hearing none.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so the hearing is closed.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the common victualler license for The Walk 360, located at 385 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, with the conditions of the DCG to be placed on the license.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
I beg your pardon?
Abstain.
Abstain, okay. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing and a possible potential board vote on the outdoor entertainment license application for Foodies LLC for Foodies Fest on July 17th and 19th, 2026 at 385 Southbridge Street in Auburn, Mass.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, so we have our application, the information in our packet, and I believe that we have someone online. Is that correct? From the organization? Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
Madam Chair, again, through the town manager, for the record, I just want to confirm that the DCG has reviewed this and is satisfactory with the application.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments? Hearing none?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the outdoor entertainment license application for Foodies LLC for Foodies Fest on July 17th through the 19th, 2026 at 385 Southbridge Street, Auburn, Mass. 01501, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions of the DCG to be placed on the license.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. All right, the next item is a public hearing and probable board vote on the outdoor entertainment license application for the Auburn Police Association for an annual family event on August 11, 2026 at Lemansky Park from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, you want to tell us about the event? Just identify yourself, too. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Good
Good.
evening, I'm Lieutenant Stephanie Hayward. I have with me Officer Dominic Walker. We're here to talk about our summer send-off, which was originally National Night Out. We started, this is our third year? Third year. We'll be coming back up again in August on the 11th with a rain date of the 13th. It's again, just the same thing we've done the last few years, a family fun event. We'll have bounce houses, food trucks, games, a band, and all kinds of different events for kids and families to come. It's free to the public to come in. We do adhere to all of the town regulations as far as licensing. All the food trucks are going to have all their own licensing done. All the bounce houses will be inspected with the town because we've worked on that in the past as well. And really, we just want to have a great family-friendly night.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
No questions, just comment. I want to thank you again for putting on this great family event and sort of a great end of summer. Soon school's about to start. Sending away for the community. So thank you for putting it together.
Thank you. It's all Officer Walker.
With that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
A second.
So we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the outdoor entertainment license application for the Auburn Police Association for an annual family event on August 11th, 2026 at Lemansky Park from 5 to 8 p.m., provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all conditions shall then validate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions of the DCG to be placed upon the license.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, you're all set.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to waive the license fee.
A second.
So we have a motion and a second to waive the license fee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, continuing our agenda, we have next Auburn Fire Rescue Department and board vote to apply for the Assistance to Firefighters Grant, AFG, for self-contained breathing apparatus. And I believe, Chief Coleman is here to tell us about it.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So as my letter stated, the application period for the Assistance to Firefighters Grant through FEMA is open. Requesting approval to submit for a grant to replace our self-contained breathing apparatus, our SCBA, as well as a new air compressor. This is on the CIP, as my letter indicates, I believe in FY30. So we have a couple of grant cycles between now and then that we would like to try to get this expenditure covered by grant instead of CIP.
Okay. Can I ask, have we gotten this grant before?
We have. So 15 years ago, we received a grant. I want to say it was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $350,000 to purchase the current self-contained breathing apparatus that we wear today. So those are they are at the end of their useful life at 15 years. So I'm hoping that we have a good chance for this grant because they are at 15 years old.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Hearing none?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize the Fire Rescue Department to apply for the Assistance to Firefighters Grant, AFG, for the replacement of 32 self-contained breathing apparatus, as well as the replacement of a breathing air compressor.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, you're all set, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Madam Chair, can I make a motion to move up item 10E?
Yes. We have a motion and a second to move up item 10E. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. And this is the board vote to endorse the conservation restriction between Greater Worcester Land Trust and the Quinsigbin Band of Nipmuc for the property on Ellie Way in Worcester that crosses over into Auburn. Okay, we have someone to talk about it. Just identify yourself, sir.
Sure. My name is Colin Novick. I'm the Executive Director for the Greater Worcester Land Trust. This is a project we've been working on for about 15 years. While we have Packagug Hill, Packagug Golf Course, and all sorts of wonderful Packagug things, what we don't have is land set aside to basically capture and memorialize the historic site, which was the spring and the settlement area, the village, which made up Packagug. So we worked with Ken Etier, and we worked with Thomas Doughton, and we worked with a number of folks in the community to carve out a more or less half-acre site, very modest. However, it does capture the wetland, the spring site, and public access. It straddles Auburn and Worcester, which makes sense because we are tied together historically, and that's where the village was. But it also means that we need permission from both the city of Worcester and the town of Auburn in order to be able to have this agreement. What we're doing is we're having Greater Worcester Land Trust hold the property as public access, open space, and the Quinsigamond Band of Nipmuc get the guarantee that it stays conservation land, and they also have affirmative rights that allow them to do the interpretation of the site and do public programming there. So what I have come today is to ask for your approval of this conservation restriction, and if possible, to collect your signatures so that I can send it to the state and have it recorded before June 30th, because this is like Cinderella, where everything at midnight turns into a pumpkin, and I'm running quickly towards the pumpkin. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, questions? No questions?
Nope, just a statement that I'm very happy to see this being done to preserve the area and preserve the history of the Nipmuc, Quinsigamond Band of Nipmunks. With that, I'll make a motion to approve a conservation restriction from the Greater Worcester Land Trust, Inc., to the Quinsigamond Band of Nipmunks, Inc., in the public interest pursuant to Section 32 of Chapter 184 of the Massachusetts General Laws.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good, we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The paperwork with your signatures is coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so just heading back to our agenda, we're going to look at departmental items B. DPW, we have an FY26, FY27 roadway construction update, and our DPW Director, Town Engineer, Joanna Paquin is here.
Good evening.
Hi.
Thank you for the opportunity to give a brief update. So we have awarded our roadway reconstruction bid a few weeks ago to J.H. Lynch. I apologize, in my letter to you, I was still focused on our sewer main break, and I listed the incorrect contractor. So the current project is awarded at $1.8 million. It includes Auburn Street, Church Street, South Street, Lancaster Street, and Old Mulberry Road. Because the price is a little bit lower than we had expected, what we had estimated, we never want to be the low bidder, but it's a little bit lower. We're also looking to add a portion of South Street more near Barnes Road, but that hasn't, we still need to get approval from the state before we move forward with any change orders. At this point, the J.H. Lynch has started drainage work on South Street. We have a detour where we'll be working with the police department to make sure that that detour, we don't disrupt the neighborhood with speeding. But they are working on drainage. They'll probably be working for the next 3 weeks, finishing that up. There's some other drainage work on the other roads, but not as major as South Street. After that, they'll move on to drainage, pulverization. The Auburn Street work is just going to be a mill and overlay, so not as disruptive as the other roads.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
So when you say drainage, you're talking like road runoff and stuff, not sewer or?
Right.
Okay.
Drainage, yes. No, we usually check the sewer infrastructure to make sure that we don't need to do any work, but we knew that the drainage needed to be upgraded or replaced.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, I have a couple questions. You said that the bid came in better than we had thought. What was the per linear foot that we were able to get?
I haven't calculated that at this point. It was more, so when we bid out the projects, we don't really look at the linear foot. It's more of how much, it's itemized. So a classified excavation, hot mix, 12-inch pipe, 16-inch pipe, that type of thing. So, so it's much more specific than just the linear, the dollars per foot, but I can certainly calculate that.
Yeah, if you don't mind just calculating the average of what the linear foot was, only because that was the driver behind the discussion at town
Right.
meeting, is we were expecting bids to be a certain amount of linear foot, so
Right,
it would just
and-
be a good comparison.
Absolutely. And I know that this might balance out a little bit just because we do have a lot of drainage work on South Street, but we also have a lot less work on Auburn Street. But I can certainly get that number to you.
Great, thank you. How many miles of roads are we paving under this package? And you can, when you add in the additional South Street work that you're probably going to add on top of this, do you know?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I apologize. I didn't prepare that.
If we can get that in an email afterwards
Yes.
as well. The other question I have is, you're doing a lot of full depth. I think all of these are full depth except for Auburn Street, which is a mill and overlay. Did we do cores or some assessment that showed that the base of these streets were that compromised that we had to do a full depth? I'm just wondering if it was possible, because of the big cost difference. Doing full depth means we're doing less mileage. If it was possible, are we looking at, on other streets or on these streets, did we look at doing mill and overlay with spot restructure, where it was compromised, building up the base and only in those spots instead?
We have. So the roads that we're looking to do, not only, so I look at the total roadway, and most of the roads that we're doing not only have pavement failure, so it's going through not just the pavement, but also the underlying soils. So, to get a long, lasting road, we're going to have to pulverize. But also, we're reconstructing the sidewalks. So that's one of, it's a little bit more of a push towards reconstruction when we're looking at sidewalks, just because it's a little bit more cost effective to just pulverize the entire thing and rebuild those sidewalks, because some of those sidewalks are nowhere near to being in conformance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions?
I have one.
Yep.
When is the work going to begin?
So the drainage started last week. So the contractor started the work last week. They'll be continuing on with drainage on South Street for the next 3 weeks. And then they'll be doing some other drainage work, not as major, on some of the other, Old Millbury and I think Church Street. So there'll be some less intrusive drainage work. And then once they do that, then they'll move forward with the reconstruction of the roads.
Okay, because I know they're having the yard sale, I believe, this weekend. So I just want to make sure that we're not interfering with the Congregational Church, and there are others that, do fundraising for that. So that will not impact that this weekend?
No, it shouldn't, because we have the road open when they're not actively working on it. This is the time of year that makes it's a little bit difficult to do roadway work, just because of we have a rule in Auburn. The school buses always get through, so there's a smaller window of time for construction. So we're always mindful of that, as well as coordinating some of the other projects. Hopefully the upcoming project for the roadway, I guess, I don't know if it's repair at the bottom of Central Street.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just not so much a question, just a comment that I have already heard from residents on Westchester about They're seeing an increased amount of traffic due to the detour, which they expect. But with that increased traffic, people are going a lot faster on that residential street than the residents feel comfortable because they're obviously trying to make up time to get back either to 20 or the other side. And I know I did send an email to the town manager and CC'd yourself and the police chief. If we can make an effort to do some targeted enforcement out there, maybe put the radar speed sign out there on Westchester, just to try to encourage those, those detoured cars to go a little bit slower through the residential neighborhood, that'd be appreciative.
Any other questions? All right, I have a question. So this is the first bid. Now, this is using money from fiscal '26.
Yes.
Which is the year we're in now. And this is using last year's Chapter 90 money.
So that's money remaining from the previous project, yes.
Remaining, okay. So on or about July 1st, fiscal year '27 starts. So that'll give us more money. That'll give us the Chapter 90 for fiscal '27. That'll give us the $500,000 that was allotted for this at town meeting, and then also the regular town funding from the operating budget. Do you anticipate going out to bid again when that occurs?
That is the plan. We are expecting a little bit of blip in staffing. One of our engineers is looking at taking a short leave.
Yep.
So we're hoping to get that bid out shortly, or not shortly, but we're hoping to get that bid out, before, or at least determine the roads before
Yep.
he goes out on leave.
Yep.
But yes, we are planning on getting that bid out this year. Still hoping that there's a possibility that they're going to be, they can start work on during this construction season. But I'm looking at two bids. One roadway bid, and then because the money is sort of not merged, but I have the roadway money and then the drainage money.
Yep.
And a lot of times we use the drainage funding for roadway reconstruction.
Yep.
I plan on using some of that drainage money that's allocated towards specifically a contract for drainage, so that we can get caught up on some of the catch basin replacement.
Okay. So you'll be able to go out, because it'd be nice to get a commitment from a company, right?
Yes.
So that we can get that started and hope for a good fall, so that they can get a lot of work done. Okay.
Absolutely, that's the hope, to have the two contracts. We have the base of the contract. It's just at this point, knowing that we have that money, we know how much money we have, and just doing an estimate of how much we can, what roads we can do and how much they're going to cost, so that we can allocate to both projects.
Okay, thank you. And again, you're going to get for us the average price per linear foot, and then the actual number of miles of road that are being addressed in this plan that you gave us today. That's great. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Yeah.
No?
So you just mentioned the roads that you could get, like, you have roads that need to get done. You're just trying to figure out how to fit the cost into that, correct?
Right,
I just
so-
want to make sure everyone is aware, like, we know the roads that need work. You're
Right.
just looking at what is budget, or what the budget will allow to get done.
Right, so when we have our list of roads, then we go down more into detail and do an itemized cost estimate. And then that's when we, have a better idea, if this is a road that needs extensive drainage work, then, then we have a better idea of how much money we're gonna have left over for the other roads.
So based on what Mr. Corain was asking, is there ever a desire to maybe forego some of the really bad roads to get a lot more of the other roads resolved? Because they're all, well, I don't want to say all, there are a lot of roads that are in disrepair, and some are a lot worse than others, but if it's costing us 10 times more to fix a small section of one road where we could do a couple miles, is that ever into the thought process, or how does that get determined?
We do. I'm looking at all options. What can be done. we definitely want to address the drainage issues. When, our guys are going out, to the same street, multiple times a week, looking to see what we can do, and there's two different ways of looking at it, like the scabs, the really thin potholes, that's not really going to need a reconstruction, but the roads that, we have insurance claims on, we definitely need to, address, because it's not just, our cost to maintain that road, it's the commuter's cost to, on their vehicles.
Thank you.
All set? All right, thank you very much, Joanne,
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, continuing with our agenda, we have under Select Board general items, no proclamations, no recognitions, no gift acceptances, but we're going to vote on some reappointments for board and committee members with terms ending 6/30/2026. All right, so on the zoning, okay, and these are members of boards and commissions that are appointed by the Select Board. All reappointments have been vetted and approved by the town manager and the chairs of said committees, and all members up for reappointment have indicated that they wish to be reappointed. So first, we have Zoning Board of Appeal. These are 3-year terms to expire on 6/30/2029. First member is Michael Marin.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Michael J. Marin to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2029.
A second. So we have a motion and a second to reappoint Michael Marin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next for the Zoning Board of Appeals is Megan Roach.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to appoint Megan E. Roach to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2029.
Second. So we have a motion and a second to reappoint Megan Roach. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Now we have Finance Committee. There are 2 3-year term positions that are set to expire on June 30th, 2029. First is Kevin Kennedy.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Kevin W. Kennedy to the Finance Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2029.
Second. So we have a motion and a second to reappoint Kevin Kennedy. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, next we have Trevor Joseph Sansucci.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Trevor Joseph Sansucci to the Finance Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2029.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, and the third committee we're looking at is the Flag Design Committee. 3 individuals, and these are 1-year terms to expire on 6/30/2027. First is Stephen Consilvio.
Madam Chair, before we make these appointments, I just have a couple questions. This committee has lingered for at least 4 to 5 years, maybe even longer. They had gotten started, they did a whole bunch of public outreach, they did polling, then they did in-person polling, looked like they had narrowed it down to 1 or 2, and then I know that at the time, Mr. Liberty, who was a select board member when this flag committee was started, had to resign and then joined the Navy and was stationed overseas. I know he's stationed back stateside now, but on the other coast. So my question is, do we know where they are in the process of actually redesigning the flag? Is this something that we want to give it 1 more year and see if they're going to finish, or do we know where we are in the process essentially? Because it seems like this is a 4 to 5 year process to redesign a flag. Again, that really there hasn't been any activity that I've seen in probably a good 2 to 2.5 years.
Through the chair, I am not aware of where they are in the design. I was aware that it's been going on for several years. I didn't know if the board wanted me to do outreach to them, to have them come in and provide an update to the board at a future meeting, perhaps.
So can I ask that we have 1 more meeting, I believe, before the end of the fiscal year?
That is correct.
Can I ask that we hold this item and have them, at least one of the members, come before us? give us an update, and then at the next meeting, if we decide this is something we want to continue, we can appoint them at that time. I'm all for redesigning the flag. I just think it's been a 4 to 5 year process for something that should have been 1 or 2 years. And if it's not making any forward momentum, I'm not sure we should continue having a committee for a committee's sake.
So I'm in support of that. I think, again, any board or committee that's been appointed that has been inactive for a while, if there isn't a desire or a need, I feel should be disbanded in some way, but would certainly entertain an opportunity to see what's going on before agreeing to continue this.
All right, that's a plan. All right, continuing on our agenda tonight, we have a discussion and board vote to appoint a delegate and an alternate to the CMRPC for fiscal 2027, one-year terms to expire on 6/30/2027. So that's the Central Mass Regional Planning Committee. The CMRPC has 4 Auburn delegates, 1 planning board resident representative, 1 planning board delegate, 1 town manager delegate, and that person must be a member of the select board, and 1 town manager alternate. So the planning board has already made their selection. Now the select board must make the selection. Last year, the town manager delegate was Steve Chambers.
So just a process question, and I'm more than happy to take a vote if it's necessary to appoint Mr. Chambers and Mr. Coles, but since it is the town manager selection under, I think, the charter, I could be wrong, is this something that the board even has to weigh in on, or is this similar to other appointees like the planning board and other conservation commission and other boards and commissions that are not elected, that are not specifically under the select board jurisdiction, that the town manager can make the selection on her own? Just like I'm very protective of guarding our authority, I don't want to attempt to intercede with the authority of the town manager.
Through the chair, this has been something that the Board of Selectmen have voted in the past. I do not vote on a planning board representative or the delegate. I'm assuming the
Right,
planning board.
Yeah, correct. The planning board does theirs. I mean the town manager selection. Because this is the town manager delegate and the town manager alternate. I'm not sure if there's a need for the select board to ratify your selections. More than happy to do it. I just don't want to take away your authority if you have the right to do it yourself.
Paul, would you like to?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. Again, Paul Delaquila, Assistant Town Manager. I was not professed to be an expert on the appointing authority, but I just wanted to expand a little bit on the role. As we're aware, the CMRPC is our regional planning agency, and this isn't really just we actually get credit for our members who participate in any CMRPC events. So every community in Central Mass that's a member of CMRPC gets a base number of technical assistance hours every year. And based on what our delegates do, we get additional credits for if Mr. Chambers attended a meeting or the planning board delegate attended a meeting, we get an additional technical assistance hour. And that can be very helpful. It can be very discrete tasks, or it can be bigger planning tasks that we can add on to other projects to sort of soften those costs. So as was alluded to, the planning board's already designated their members for the upcoming year, a full member and an alternate. And I believe that's the discussion here tonight with this board.
Thank you.
And through the chair, back about, whether it's my responsibility or the Board of Selectmen's, I find, I guess it doesn't really matter, because I would refer to the board to look for someone who would volunteer. I'm not in a position to appoint someone a delegate or an alternate without someone volunteering for that. So that's what I would recommend at this meeting.
So, Mr. Chambers, are you volunteering for the committee?
Yes.
Thank you. You're volunteering to be a delegate. Thank you. Okay, do I hear a motion?
So for the record, Mr. Chambers has done a great job representing us at the CMRPC for some time now, even when he was a planning board member. So I make a motion to reappoint Steve Chambers as the town manager delegate to the CMRPC for a one-year term ending June 30th, 2027.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to reappoint Steve Chambers. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, and now we're looking at the town manager alternate delegate. And this was Andrew Hendricks Coles.
Madam Chair, as I was saying to Mr. Crane, I think it's appropriate that we weigh in on our appointment. Mr. Coles is not a member of this board. I would defer to the manager. We don't need to vote on that.
Well, if we don't take a formal vote, you have my support if you'd like to recommend them.
Thank you. It's fine.
That's fine? Okay. All right. Continuing on, no town manager items. We have tabled items. We have 2 sets of minutes from April 27th, 2026, May 11th, 2026. Does anyone have any questions or comments on those? Okay, so those are accepted as read, accepted as presented. Next, we have a member item, Dan Carpenter, a discussion and potential vote regarding rent control. To consider or vote for one or a combination of the following actions. After discussion, any action the select board may wish to take. This could be one or more public hearings with invitations to park residents and park owners. And this is to create a subcommittee with members, for example, from the select board, town meeting members, business community reps, and other town boards, such as the Board of Health, and request the town manager create a committee. Again, this is for regarding potential rent control in mobile home parks in Auburn. So Dan?
Yeah, well, I think you explained it better than I could, but then I did write the email, so I guess I did that. I did just want to speak to member items briefly. These are not subject to approval by the chair. I got an email saying, send it to so-and-so. The practice has always been to send it to the admin. It is automatic that a member item is added to the agenda, but it's up to the board what they want to do. I left town meeting being rather unhappy with how the article was handled. I don't think that the residents who were either for it or not for it really were heard by their elected representatives. So I'm just looking to see if the board is interested in doing any or all of the above or none of the above. So that's why I didn't want to just leave it as town meeting acted, and that was all the matter. That was all the discussion that this situation merited.
All right.
So, Madam Chair, if I
Yep.
may. So, I had the same feeling leaving town meeting as Mr. Carpenter did. Not because necessarily one way or the other, but I hearken back to, this is like, for me, this was like the chicken discussion. And the lack of our zoning, discussing and providing a realistic view on backyard chickens and beekeeping and everything else. And for me, what I wanted to see was, and I think there was merit in the discussion that people said that there should have been a discussion before it went to town meeting. Now it went to town meeting because a citizen used their ability under state law to put a warrant before town meeting. And I'm grateful that he did, because it at least sparked the conversation that I think the community has to have on this issue. But I think that those who were critical of that was that there was no discussion, there was no public hearing, there was no public meetings where this was discussed and where the process was discussed until we got to town meeting. And I don't think the floor town meeting is the right venue to have that prolonged discussion. I think town meeting members were there to deal with the budget. I think that once the hour started getting later, their patience for listening to the speakers who wanted to speak on this issue got less and less. And I'm glad that you put this forward. You beat me to it. So I'm glad that you did it and I didn't have to do it. For me, I think the first thing that we should have is a discussion. I think there should be a public hearing before we form a committee or ask the town manager to form a committee or start, going down this road. I think that, there's not been, there's not been a true discussion in the community before any board or commission on this issue. So I'd be in favor of, in the fall, early September, I don't think it should be happening over the summer. People are away. Where we have a public hearing before the select board with staff from various departments invited. And we make sure that as part of the noticing for that, every resident and owner of those mobile modular home parks that are subject to this, so not the ones that are association owned, but those that are owned privately in our rental units, are invited by mail, that they get something in the mail that invites them to come provide their comment, feedback, ask their questions that night, and we can hear from all the sides, and then I think we can make a decision after digesting that, whether we form a committee, what that committee should look like, what the goals of that committee is, or we ask the town manager to do that, or we say, you know what, this isn't something that we, feel should move forward based on what we hear that night. I don't want to put the, sort of the horse before the cart. I want to have the public hearing first, listen to everybody, and then go from there.
And Steve? Do you want
If that's the route this board chooses to take, then I suggest it's a standalone meeting, because this is a hotly debated topic that people did not want to listen to both sides. And a lot of the concerns were repeated, so people do lose interest in that. So if we're going to allow the platform for people to speak, we're going to have to set aside time and also have patience with continued similar comments. I don't think we're going to solve this. It was brought up by a resident. I can tell you my personal feelings on it, but that doesn't matter. It's really what the residents want. I think we need to further the discussion before taking action. So I would be in support of setting up a standalone meeting to have those discussions.
Through the chair, I also agree. I think that would be a great first step to be able to take the time to hear the people's concerns for or against it.
Okay. Do you want to speak?
No, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think we do need a hearing to see if there's an appetite for this. And I think the hearing, a standalone hearing, is a good idea in September.
Does the board think we need to do this, or is this something that the manager and staff should handle? That's just throwing it out there.
In my opinion, this is a big enough issue that will have a large impact on the community that it warrants the board, or at least a majority of the board being present, having the public hearing, because we're the ones that are going to have to decide whether this goes forward or not. So I think it should be a public hearing, advertised by the board, overseen by the board, with relevant staff present.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Okay. I don't think we need a vote on this or anything. Then I think that the town manager understands what we're looking for. Okay.
Oh, before we move on from that, I know Mr. Crane referenced various department heads as being part of that.
Yeah.
Do we need to identify that, or is it as town manager sees fit? I just want to make sure we're not having everybody involved that doesn't need to be, or do we need to?
I think there's been certain themes that have been expressed in that discussion that before. So DDIS comes to mind. I don't, to me, really, DDIS, I think, is the main one. Wherever we are with whether planning is still under DDIS or they're under Paul, but I think, planning, those types. I don't think we need to have everyone in for that discussion. I think it's really on, health issues, economic development issues, those types of things, planning issues.
Yeah, and I'm sure the town manager will let us know who she thinks should be invited, and if we want to add a department, we can certainly communicate that with her. Okay.
Before we move on, I would like a member of the Board of Health to be present. The actual board, not staff, but obviously I want staff, but I want a committee member from the Board of Health. And they're all welcome to come, but I would like them in attendance.
Okay. All right. We're all set, so continuing, public comments. Do we have someone signed up? Yes, we do.
I just put my name up there in case.
Well, just come to the mic, yeah. Just because we're recording it, et cetera, so.
Justin Salmon, 55 Prospect Street, one of the owners of several mobile home parks. I mean, we're all for having a bigger discussion about it. As everybody said, there was a lot of for it and against it at town meeting. I guess one question I would have is, would it be more than just about rent control that could be discussed? Because a lot of things that I heard and have continued to hear from residents of certain parks, not necessarily generated by what's going on with the rent, but maybe management issues that aren't being taken care of by certain park owners. You know, to me personally, that seemed to be a bigger problem, at least what was spoken about at town meeting that night. You know, maybe that's something to look at as well.
So from my perspective, those things are going to come out whether we say it can or not.
Yep.
But that's why I want staff present, because they can listen to those issues and then maybe have side conversations or take notes and follow up later to address those issues that come out that aren't specific to the rent control, but might be, you know, health code, building code, inspectional service issues that need follow up by the town. And the only way we're going to find out possibly about it is through that conversation if that happens at the meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and we have minutes, newer minutes, from May 26, 2026. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about these minutes? No, hearing none, then I think the minutes are accepted as read or presented to us.
So, through the chair, if I may, I know last meeting we had a discussion about being, well, I guess it turned into responding to public comments. I feel like we should have a discussion. I think it was misinterpreted, or I didn't present it properly. I think at the end of the meetings, we should provide direction to the town manager based on some comments, whether there's actions that need to be taken. I'm not looking for, you know, debate or anything like that, but do we proceed on following through? Because again, as people come forward with their comments, they throw things out there that may need more research or investigation, but for the town manager to go ahead and do those items.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
sir.
agree with you. I'd like to have that conversation. That wasn't on the agenda, and I just want to make sure that we do not violate the open meeting law tonight by having that discussion. I'd recommend that that becomes a member item for the next agenda, and not just one that that the member brings up and we have a discussion. It would be great if staff can prep in advance for that with respect to whether there's any question on town council, whether we can have that discussion, those types of issues, and we can discuss it as an agenda item so that there's no issues with open meeting law violations, whether they're perceived or actual.
Okay, I think that's the way to go, because we don't want to, we're beholden to open meeting laws, and we need to make sure we adhere to those. Okay? So I hear what you're saying, Mr. Chambers. Thank you. All right, when is our next meeting? In 2 weeks?
Yes, June 22nd.
June 22nd. Okay?
Motion to adjourn.